So we're now going to be working on ref image 2, which is a Amber Heart Großsteiger image. Gorgeous again, as always. All these reference images are royalty free and off pixels, so do check them out. We're going to follow the same procedure. So you can see here I've got my white pastel pencil ready to rock and roll. I've got my set of pastels all scattered around. I have looked at the image beforehand and selected the colours that I'm going to use. Looking at my image and looking at the colour ranges I have on me. I have a hairspray as well. So again, I'm carrying on the kids' sugar paper. I've checked out my aspect ratio, so it's quite long and thin, this image. I've had to add on a bit, I've slightly miscalculated. And I'm going to get my white pencil and first of all draft everything in. It's wise to work out that horizon line is around here. Then I'm going to start putting in my biggest mountain to start off with. So when you're drawing, you're always looking at getting the big structures in first, because then they can dictate where the smaller structures sit in relationship to one another. It's a lot easier. You're also generally looking at making sure that you're holding the end of your pencil, and that's maybe a little bit more V-shaped than it should be, but you know, it'll be good to go. Then I'm looking at building in these other shapes. So coming in down here, sometimes it's easy to draw the shadows because they're quite clearly defined if you've got harsh light on your subject matter. Right, very simple. Then slide your hand down just like we did before and start building up a nice accurate observation of your picture. And the more time that you've got, obviously the more accurate it's going to be. These are only quick mini studies to give you a taster. They're not by any means going to be perfect, but they're good enough to show you what I mean. You will find that you will automatically draw in the shadows because they're so crisp on this image. It will be only natural for you to do so. So you should end up with something like this. You might find that you want to put in the clouds. It's up to you, or you can freehand stylize as you go along the process. So what we're going to look at doing is generally putting in our highlights to start off with. Now this is the purple shadow project that I'm using. You can see here I've got a selection of purples and I've also got oranges and yellows as well, which is going to be handy. I'm going to work light to dark. So to start off, I'm going to use like a light creamy yellow, because it's pastels. So I know that I'm going to be mixing and moulting layers up of different colours. I'm putting in my highlights, I'm looking at my light source direction and being aware of where the shadows are being cast in relationship to one another. Now you can use your pastel on the side if you feel comfortable that way. You want to keep it quite loose and free, just like we were doing before. Or you might find that you want to keep it upright and be a little bit more accurate. Either is absolutely fine. Oh, I've just remembered I've got to put those clouds in. So let's just whack some of those clouds in. And for the clouds, I'm going to put in a white to start off with because I want them to become pink. And I'm going to mix the red into that colour. Like so I'll put down my white. I'm then going to take a little bit of a kind of pinky red. I'll put that in. So I'm kind of thinking about where my colours are, the relationship of one to another. Then I can take my white and I can work that pink out into my puffy soft cloud. Now because we're on the black paper, it also means we need to put a sky in. So I've got a rough sky colour, but I'm going to patchwork in around it. Now you're going to find with any pastels when you're doing this the first time, the pastel colour is going to be quite sharp and bright. You can see here how bright my blue is in relationship to the reference image. It's just not suitable. But once I put the blue down and then work into it with the white, it should soften it off a lot and make it look more realistic. This is probably a bit of a vivacious blue that I've grabbed, but I quite like it. And I thought it would look nice with the purples. Don't always have to be hyper realistic when you're doing these type of things. So I'm going to mix in a white pastel. Again, it's a hard pastel, so I'm using it on its side. I can get quick coverage across my paper by using it on its side, far quicker than if I had to draw it pointed end down. Now I could build up multiple different blues to make this look realistic, but like I said, it's just a sketch, so it's not that much important to get the colour absolutely perfect. The colour needs more bleaching out in yellowy tone down here. I'm going to apply a lot more pressure on my white. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in there, and I'm going to add a little bit of an orangey tone. Then I'm going to take my white and mix the two together on the surface of the blue, and it'll give me a haze that's quite natural looking. It's got a little bit of that reddy tone that we're going to use up here, which I think this will probably work better. So I'm going to grab that red. I'm also going to work that into my clouds. It's tying the picture together. Again, you can be more accurate than me. I'm just slapping it on really. Then I'm using my white to move that out, create cross-contamination on purpose, holding the white on its side so that I can flick it round and blend it out into that blue sky to make the clouds look far more natural. And you should end up with a sky like so. Now I need to start working up some of the white on here, so I'm going to just slit this down because remember I want to keep this nice and white, so to do so I need it to go straight on the paper, not on top of any other pastel tones. And then I've got my yellows that I need to start building up. Now I'm putting yellow down here on purpose. You're probably going to be saying, I can't see any yellow on here, Kim. What on earth are you doing? The trick is going to be the fact that I'm going to start putting some orange on top of the yellow, and it will create cross-contamination, which will give me various different tones of the orange quite naturally without so much hard work. So by putting that on there, then I'm going to grab my orange and start working that up. Some nice reds that are working in here as well. And then about building up some of those ready tones. Now you might say that you want a little bit more pink, which you could do in here. It's absolutely fine. Go with what which colours you can see. So I've put in that red, and then I'm going to go for a little bit more of a plummier red and work that out into colours. Be careful that you're keeping your eye on the picture so that you can see the highlights and where the shadow should be cast. Don't overmix everything and build up too much layer, or you'll end up with too much cross-contamination and it'll get murky. With the shadows, you don't ever get a crisp harsh shadow. There's always a little bit of cross-contamination. Do think about having a little bit of a colour that you might have in the general picture come in to the shadow areas. As you can see here, I've done with the pink. Once you've got that, then it's throwing in your darker purples. Right, I'm going to go in with a really strong purple. Thinking about the type of marks I'm generating and the textures I want to emanate. I'm going to throw some of that purple into areas that I can see shadows on the rock as well. Grab a few different shades of purple and work them in. And you can see it starts looking very powerful as an image. You should be getting something similar to this. Now you can carry on working that up if you want to. You might even want to take a white and give yourself some really strong highlights. That's my white. Because ultimately the tone will help the viewer read the optical illusion of depth within the artwork. Also got the texture that you're trying to emanate. You've got a little bit of perspective there you might need to just draw out into the horizon. I'll just boost my yellow. Got a little bit lost with purple. You should be getting something very similar to this. Now again, if you want to, you can leave it like that, or you can take your black charcoal pencil and start building up a little bit of detail here and there. Should be getting something. It's very similar to this. Right, going to just fill in a few spots where you've missed your colours. For instance, a little bit of blue sky. And hey presto! Let's move on down to the reference imagery.